You're saying earlier, other news here in Canada, big news that was made earlier this week, where Tom Mulcair had a bit of a dust-up with Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall, and he reiterated his comments to reporters yesterday. We have a quote board for you here. Natural resource sector, is it harming manufacturing? According to Thomas Mulcair, it's had an effect of hollowing out the manufacturing sector. It's demonstrable, it's measurable, and it's been proven. Fighting words, Rudyard.
Absolutely, Tasha. And the other big protagonist in this event, Brad Wall, the Premier of Saskatchewan. Tasha caught up with him earlier today to put Tom Mulcair's arguments to the Premier directly. Have a listen to the interview.
Premier Wall, thank you for joining us on National Affairs today. I'm going to ask you first off to play doctor, as Mr. Mulcair has. He's diagnosed Canada's economy as suffering from Dutch disease. Now, I take it your diagnosis is probably a little different. So what do you think is ailing our economy, and what would be the cure, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I think we'd like to see the economy right across the country even stronger than it is today. But compared to most other places in the world, we're comparatively strong. And we're comparatively strong for the precise reason that Mr. Mulcair and the NDP are saying we're weak, and that is natural resource development in the country is certainly helping to create jobs at a time when jobs are rare, new jobs are rare around the world. I also think this is a very tenuous construct, this Dutch disease theory that he is now espousing and applying to our own particular circumstance. I mean, the situation in the Netherlands that is the genesis of this particular theory has actually, the facts of that economy don't necessarily bear out his point that high resource prices are the direct result of that as a hollowing out of the manufacturing sector. Here's another point in that regard. If it's true that Western Canadian resource development and strength is responsible for a decline in manufacturing jobs in central Canada or elsewhere, how does he explain the fact that there's been an almost mirror decline in manufacturing jobs in places like, well, in the Rust Belt in the United States, in places like Ohio, or in places like states like Michigan, where they've seen that same decline and they don't have the attendant resource strength in some other part of the United States. Moreover, while we'd always like to be doing better, the manufacturing sector in Western Canada and in our province is showing some strength in the face of a high dollar. So I think it's an unfortunate comparison, and it would lead someone aspiring to be the Prime Minister to some very wrong conclusions about what the economy needs. What we ought not to be doing is threatening the economic strength of one part of the country in the name perhaps of some political objectives that someone may have in another part of the country.
What about those manufacturing jobs that have been lost in central Canada? Would you just write them off then? Should we pursue a different strategy?
Well, no, absolutely not. In fact, we now see some attendant strength in terms of Canadian automakers. By the way, Western Canadian premiers were there to support a bailout when it was needed for that particular industry. We understand the importance of a diversified economy across the country, but the answer is not to take a pipe wrench to those parts of the economy that are working quite well. I'd also offer this. I think it's a mistake for any of us to believe that a low dollar is the answer in terms of productivity. In fact, if we've made a mistake, and others, former Premier Lougheed, have wondered about this, if we've made a mistake as a country, it's maybe getting too comfortable with a low dollar. Productivity is about other things. It's about, well, it's about competitive taxes. It's about productivity in the workplace, things like lean approaches to manufacturing. And if we confuse a low dollar with productivity, I don't think that's going to help bring back the manufacturing sector to where it was anytime soon.
One of the things that some say discourages productivity too, of course, is equalization. And the West is shipping money to the rest of the country. Do you think that should change? Do you think that the rest of the country needs to stand more on its own feet to encourage the development of more productivity there?
Well, Saskatchewan was a have-not province for a long time. We're fortunate now we're a have province. So we don't begrudge the fact that now we're net contributors into that program in an indirect way, because it's a federal program funded, from general taxes, general revenues. So the program is there. It certainly helped Saskatchewan, and we think it should be there into the future. But when Mr. Mulcair and the NDP are taking a run at the Western resource economy, inferring that it's a disease, they need to remember that disease is paying, is supporting equalization, supporting social programs in his home province, supporting payments to places like Ontario and Manitoba when they need them, or Atlantic Canada. That's one of the strengths of fiscal federalism. When one part of the economy in our country may be having some trouble, there's strength in another part, and we can provide for this sort of fiscal federalism, this sharing, this equalization. And Mr. Mulcair is taking a broadside at that as well, even though if he's not meaning to, when he's referencing our economy and inferring that it's a disease. That disease is creating jobs and opportunities for Canadians from coast to coast.
If his logic is wrong here, why is he saying this? Is he playing politics? Is he appealing to voters in central Canada, in particular in Quebec, by pitting the West against the rest? Is that his agenda?
It's a great question for Mr. Mulcair and the NDP.
What do you think?
I wish they'd answer it. Well, I can't come to any other conclusion because there's not economic. His argument's not economically sound. Dutch disease itself, as an economic principle, has come under some criticism, even from economists in that country. And then the facts in the United States belie that the resource sector is the sole blame for any attendant decrease in manufacturing jobs. So that's the only conclusion. I would hope that wouldn't be the case. He's an aspirant to the Prime Minister's office, and that means there needs to be from him and the NDP more of a national vision, I think, than this would speak to. But it's hard to come to any other conclusion. And this is about a political calculus about maybe perhaps where they believe they could grow in the number of seats they have. I don't know. It'd be nice to hear from him.
Well, last question to you then. It might be one letter different, but NDP and NEP are just one letter apart. Do you fear that the NDP, if they did get into power, would impose any kind of similar policy on the West, given Mr. Mulcair's obvious antipathy, in a sense, to the development of the oil sands?
Well, and it's not just oil sands, as I've pointed out, it's resources, and he actually clarified that yesterday and said it's not just oil sands. He has a concern about fast growth in the resource sector. But to your question, he is using code language like internalizing the environmental costs of resource development. That sounds like a carbon tax to me. That sounds like NEP-like redistributive policies that are going to, again, I think, put at risk what is strong about our economy right now. You know, Tasha, right now, Canada has some strength to offer the world in terms of the world's demand for food security and energy security. The fast-growing economies of the world want these things. I like Canada's chances in that world to continue to succeed economically, but not if we adopt policies that would actually harm those sectors of the economy that can answer those two international questions.
Right, that will be the last word. Premier Brad Wall of Saskatchewan, we thank you very much for joining us on National Affairs today.
Thanks very much.